Hello and welcome to the space between. Hello, Gordon. What do you want? Hold on a second. Gordon wants to say something. All right, Gordon. What are you going to say? Gordon. 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 What did you want to say? Huh? What did you want to say? You didn't want to say anything. Okay, fine. All right. Back to our regular programming scheduled. Yeah. Well, so we got to think. Gordon, you want to do some thinking too? No, you just want me to scratch your belly. All right, I'm gonna have to go with this alone. Well, let's jump into our chat with Gemini. Oh no. Hmm. Well, if I jump into the chat with Gemini, let's see if we can actually see that screen. Share. Oh, it actually is showing it. Nice. No, it's not necessary. Yes. And I need to check the audio. Hello. Can you hear me? I can't. You can't see my Gemini screen. What the heck? It's not actually the screen I wanted to show. So that screen's not sharing either. What if we share this screen? Chat disabled. Okay, it's not sharing any of my screens. Huh. It's interesting. Hello, I'm back. Well, maybe we could just share the window. What if we share the window instead? Nice. Okay. So in the background screen, I'm just going to turn that quality down. Okay. All right. So as you can see, for some reason, there's some French right here. Turns out I was like just looking at some French. Aujourd'hui. Okay. And then what did I do before the French? What is this? On my French channel, I used Windsurf to create some kind of like little activity for French. I don't really need this to be here. So then the question is like, I have some French homework to do now. All right, where did we get last week? Last week, basically, we updated this document. It says all of our foundational documents are now synchronized with a clear user-centric direction for a AI-first blog platform. This has been a very productive session for ensuring strategic alignment. I will now switch back to my role as liaison AI to continue facilitating our VOTS. For this strong foundation in place, let's pick up where we left off. We were about to dive into your specific needs for the three key areas you identified. Let's start with the first one, your political. Okay, that's not necessarily what I want to do right now. Now, I could see we got a problem with Google. What is it? It's like I can't actually go back to this part of the conversation. Like with ChatGPT, I could go up here and I can edit a previous chat, and then everything after this chat will be deleted. That would be helpful. Why? Because I wanted to use this chat to do some work with something, but I don't necessarily want to keep that stuff. So now I got it, like, I'm stuck. But anyways, before I got stuck, I actually edited my foundational documents, which means that if I upload all these docs, then I will be right here. Who's this architect? Now, another thing is that let's go into liaison. Let's jump into liaison for some reason. I don't know what's going on. Okay, architect. So this one is kind of like, let's update it. Let's try this. Let's jump in here. Now we have 8 foundational documents. So let's upload this document. Now, there are some differences. So I actually did make some changes. So I made some changes to some other of the foundational. I think like 3 or 4 of these documents were changed in the last video. So I don't know if liaison can actually pick up on the changes, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Let's just put in this one. So what's the first principle? The first principle is when you're working with AI is just a general thing. It's like electricity. And you're going to plug in something. You have to plug in some kind of appliance. For example, right now I'm plugging in a computer. And over here I'm plugging in my iPad because my internet is going through my iPad. And then over there I got the gas heater. So the gas comes in just like electricity, and then I use the gas heater to heat the house. And up here I got a lampa, and it plugs in. And so that's the thing with AI. And that's why we use these calibration documents. The calibration documents are going to calibrate your AI and turn it into the machine that you want it to be. Canadian politics, learning French, software development platform. That's not necessarily true, but it doesn't really matter right now because confirms the user-centric direction is now reflected in this. All right, that's not actually okay. Anyways, let's just start. Hello and good morning, everyone. So today I've been doing some thinking, and I started to think about principles, like something like North Star principles. And those North Star principles are what guides us through the thinking process. For example, one North Star principle that we could talk about is discoverability. I remember when people started using TikTok, and they basically, one of the big benefits of TikTok was that it seemed like people who didn't really know how to use the platform, or maybe they didn't really know a lot about marketing and how to reach out and how to find followers. For some reason, TikTok's algorithm was able to send followers, send traffic their way. And this is really useful because Instagram at the time, they did not optimize their platform for discoverability. Rather, they optimized their platform for profit. So that means that Instagram was much more interested in people paying to get new followers. So if we imagine Instagram, it's a platform where you could put up some pictures and you could kind of share your thoughts and feelings, kind of like a blog post. But the main medium was images and videos. So, and then eventually, as you know, the TikTok or Instagram, they decided to make short videos so you could upload stories. And but the point is still the same. It was really difficult for people to grow their channels unless they were just like really, really, really good at marketing, or if their channel was just so amazing that for some reason they became a breakout channel. Or on the other hand, people had to pay. So you pay money and then, yeah, you can kind of promote or boost a post that goes to a bunch of new people. And so you at the end of the day, you could kind of figure out like how much does it cost to acquire a new customer? And then for businesses, then the question is, all right, well, if I have a cost to acquiring not even a customer, but if there's a cost to acquire a follower, and then some percentage of followers are going to eventually click through to my website, and then some percentage of the click through is going to eventually make some kind of purchase, and then how much money am I making from the people who make purchases, and then I funnel some of that money back into the uh, the budget for promoting a post. Well, for some businesses, it made sense. And they probably noticed that depending on how they set up an advertising campaign, depending on what types of posts that they decided to promote, maybe the amount of money that they're earning from those initial people who follow their Instagram channel and eventually click and then eventually make a purchase. Maybe, it influenced the type of post and the people that they were advertising to. Probably that influenced the amount of money that they eventually made off of that promotion. So you got this company called Meta, and really it's just an advertising company. So they created a platform where users enjoyed using their platform. It had some kind of benefit that people were interested in. Maybe they were interested in sharing images. Maybe they were interested in connecting with their friends and family. And then eventually they have enough users that some of those users realized that they could make some money inside of this environment. And then so Meta decides, oh, okay, since you want to make money inside of our platform, we can provide you with some tools in order to reach our other users. So thus we have promoted posts, or in Facebook, you have Facebook advertising. So when somebody is looking through their feed, eventually they bump into an advertisement. Anyways, you could see that the whole purpose of Meta was to make money through advertising. Suddenly TikTok arrives, and TikTok, it doesn't seem like it necessarily has to um, end in some kind of profitability. It doesn't look like it has to make money, but it's still sending you traffic. And so suddenly all these new users are jumping onto TikTok. Now, you could have a conspiracy theory hat. You could say, well, actually, so what's going on here is either number one, the company is trying to compete, and thus they have decided not to send you ads and also to help you to get discovered. And so then that is like what people want, right? So when people join these kinds of platforms, they're like, they're saying to everyone, look at me, they're trying to show off. They're trying to get noticed, they're trying to get some attention. So we have like a lot of attention seeking behavior on social media. And TikTok says, okay, so if you want some attention, I can give you some attention, and I can find some other users who might give you some attention. And then people are really happy that they're getting some attention. And then what does it do? So it gives them something called variable reward, right? So somebody takes an action, and then there's some kind of variable reward. And then based on, because they have that variable reward, eventually the TikTok creators, they're going to put in some more energy into the process of creating new posts. And then they're gonna post those things, and then hopefully they're gonna try to, see if they can get some more attention, or see if they can get some types of attention that they might prefer. I mean, it's the same thing when you buy a new outfit and then you go out and you like hang out with your friends, and then suddenly you're like, wow, look, people are noticing me. So getting a new outfit was really helpful. Or maybe you want some attention from a specific person. And so then you do some things, you act in a certain way, you make certain signals in order to get the attention from that specific person because you want to influence their behavior. All right, so TikTok is mostly interested in building their platform and onboarding new users. And well, we don't really know why. So the question is, what are they going to do once they have all those new users? Some people, they're just saying, well, they just want to monitor their behavior. They want to understand they want to understand what Americans are thinking, and they're trying to understand the climate of the social structure, and they want to be able to see, at the end of the day, like a lot of governments, they have these things called polling agencies because they want to be able to understand what people are thinking about a variety of topics. So these social media platforms are a really good way to monitor what society is thinking and shifts in society and what types of posts are people making and how are people reacting to those posts. But I mean, right now, I'm not sure that those should be North Star principles, but certainly discoverability is a North Star principle. If you have a platform and it doesn't help you to get discovered, then people are going to get upset because, like, why would I try to blog? Why am I creating blog articles? Why am I putting effort into this if I'm not getting any kind of reward? So whether it be a platform that I create, and then on that platform I'm able to have a series of blogs. Like, for example, in the previous post that I just uploaded, I explained that, well, maybe that this platform is going to help me to be able to talk about some topics that I'm interested in, and then we can use AI to make those blog articles more interactive in some way, so that when people read them, they have a more interactive or more immersive experience. And then, so we're talking about blog articles which are more interactive. I think in general, we're talking about increasing the interactive nature of blogs, and also we're trying to expand the ability of people to be able to express themselves. But that means that people, they're not going to really express themselves any more than they used to, unless they're getting discovered, because they have to have that variable reward to feed back into their willingness to put in the effort to improve and to continue to make posts. All right. So, is there anything else that I wanted to say about that? I mean, yeah. So, then the second North Star principle is this idea of ease of use. So, because I was thinking, well, what's the difference between, like, if I can upload HTML code to WordPress, then why am I creating an entirely new blog infrastructure? Because I can just create my blog if it's just me creating a blog, or if it's me creating a series of different blogs about different topics. And then if I want to make that more immersive and more interactive, then I can use the AI tools which I already have access to. And then I can produce HTML, and then I can just put the HTML into WordPress, and then it's going to create the blog article and all the elements of the blog that I want. So, so, so good morning, pineapple. This is very insightful and a reflection. I wish I had this. Like, I wish I could have voices, like accents. That would be really nice. All right. Okay, I guess I gotta read it. All right. Good morning. This is very insightful reflection on what makes platforms compelling and successful. These North Star principles like discoverability and ease of use are highly relevant to our platform project, especially given our recent clarified focus from. Thank you for sharing these thoughts. As liaison AI, my role involves in helping to structure these ideas and integrate them into our planning process. Here's how I see these principles connecting to the platform and how I plan to incorporate them. Discoverability. Your contrast between TikTok's organic reach and Instagram's monetization model is a powerful illustration. And core ideas is that user creators need to feel that their efforts can lead to visibility and engagement to stay motivated. Relevance to the platform, given the platform's initial focus as a personalized tool for your own growth and learning. Discoverability initially translates into how easily can you discover and rediscover your own insights. Uh-oh. Notes and interactive learning units created on the platform. How easily can you find connections between different pieces of information you've processed or created for your software project? And how can the platform help you to make interactive demos easily discoverable and shareable with a select audience or collaborators? If the platform involves to serve a broader audience, then the TikTok style discoverability described would become a critical North Star principle for that wider scope. Ease of use. Your questions about WordPress and AI generated HTML is spot on. If the platform isn't significantly easier or more powerful than your specific needs in creating AI enhanced interactive content, its unique value proposition is diminished. Relevance to the platform. This directly reinforces the opportunity of vibe coding concept. Its success will be measured by how intuitively and rapidly it allows you to translate your thoughts and learning objectives into structured content and interactive units, especially compared to manually orchestrating AI tools and existing platforms. The creation and embodying of interactive AI code blocks must also be exceptionally user friendly for you. Interactive immersive experience. You mentioned making blog articles more interactive for a more immersive experience. This aligns perfectly with your core concept of user motivation and reward. The effort reward cycle is fundamental. The reward for you as the initial primary user is deeply tied to accelerating your learning, improving your projects, gaining new capabilities. Platform design must directly serve the intrinsic motivation. How will I incorporate these principles as liaison? As we continue to conceptualize the platform module for Sprint Zero, focusing on your needs of this, and this, I will explicitly introduce discoverability into into the personal content first. Personal content first and ease of use and guiding principles for discussion. Okay, it's different. Consider the principles of ease of use. How could vibe coding specifically simplify the process for you to create an interactive learning unit about a specific Canadian political topic compared to your current methods? Thinking about discoverability for your language learning units, what features would help you easily find and revisit specific vocabulary or practice exercises you've created for French or Russian? For showcasing your what how could the platform make the key interactive elements easily discoverable and understandable for someone you want to share it with? Information for Architect AI review. These principles for your reflection on them will be documented as part of the brainstorming output. This ensures that when the Architect AI reviews our progress and provides strategic input, the Architect AI has already noted these principles. Okay, so I don't know. Well, the thing is that, like, what's the point in building new infrastructure if you can use the current infrastructure and it's useful and it's working? Right? Because there's like this huge battle right now. There's all these different social media platforms, and they're all battling for attention. And then, like, some people, they're like, "Hey, look over here. I'm on this platform, or I'm on that platform." And then new platforms are showing up all the time. Like, I saw this guy put up an X post, and it's like said something. It was like, I don't know, October of 2024, and the guy's like, "Hey, I'm moving from the X platform to this other platform." And likely there's a lot of people who move from X to another platform. And what are the reasons for that? Because there's huge competition for attention, and people are going to go to places where they can get attention, and also they're going to present their stories to their audience on platforms that align with their personal belief system. So if, like, for example, if you're not happy with some of the things that Mr. Musk has said or done, and then you're saying, well, like, why am I supporting this effort if I don't like Mr. Musk? Then that might influence you to leave his platform. Or then in another case where it's like, well, I'm like, why? The question is, why are people getting bots? Like, I started posting more often on X, and then I started noticing like weird people are following me or liking my posts. I don't think these are real people. Like, why would they be real people? Because there's just the nature about like what those platforms look like. Basically, it's a profile picture, and they got like no posts, and then they just follow people's accounts. So what these are bots, right? So eventually what happens is in the future, so there's this thing where somebody owns a bot farm, and the bot farm is basically just like it starts to like it has some algorithm, and then it starts to like your posts, and it starts to follow you, and then at some point in the future, if somebody wants to uh, make some trouble in your comment section, then they already have like hundreds or thousands of bots that are connected with your profile. So it makes it really easy to automate a process where they can add a whole bunch of comments. Now, on the other hand, the person who's so then in that case you could say, oh well, it's China or it's Russia or it's somebody with some bad motive. Okay, or maybe it's X itself. So X, they know that like if you have more and more followers, then that is some type of feedback, which is likely going to maybe it's going to help you to make more posts. I don't know. So the point is that you got people who are intrinsically motivated like me. So like the things which I'm doing, they're things which I just do. Like I would be doing it whether I create some kind of social media something or not. I'm building tools, and I'm trying to build stuff for my own education. All right. All right. The other point is that I think that it's important to begin to experiment. And if we just sit here and chat and talk and I just like explain stuff, and I don't know, are we getting any closer to some actual output? So my question is like, to what extent do we need to talk about different things until we get to the point where we have some certainty or some amount of confidence about um about how to make decisions. And then sometimes it's really hard to make decisions if you don't build something. And then once you built it, then you can test it. So the question is, to what extent should we start building and testing? And to what extent should we continue to talk about this until we have something clear? For example, we have clear principles that are going to guide us in the work which we're doing, or we have a clear vision for something that we want to accomplish, or we have clear objectives. So I don't know, like, where are we right now exactly? Okay, so I think one of the first questions, and the reason why I was talking about discoverability, is because if I'm trying to create like a new platform, then we're going to be spending a lot of time trying to build this new platform. And the question is like, how much technology do we need to build until we get the foundation that we need? For example, imagine that I create my own website, right? So I buy a domain name, and then this website is used for like a blog so people can register. And since I'm the first user of this blog platform, I'm going to register three different accounts. I'm going to have register an account for Canadian politics and finance, another account for French. Oh, well, I guess it's more than one account. Let's say that we talk about. Let's say we have like more like four or five accounts. So one account, it's about world financial system and how different financial systems interact with each other, and how the interaction of those financial systems influences the behavior of central banks, companies, and governments. And then there's another blog, which is like, I guess we can call them channels. So there's another channel which is a blog where I'm talking about Canadian politics, and I'm like basically creating different types of educational tools so that I can read the news, and then also so I can get more information about the history and the thinking of different people who appear in the news, and also understand what influences their decisions, what objectives they're trying to work at, and what kinds of outcomes or output they're trying to create. Then another page which is about French. So I could go back to the beginning of my French studies, and I could also go back to the beginning of my Russian studies, and I could design and create some exercises so that I can practice the basics of both French and Russian. And then at the same time as working on some of the basics, I can also try to figure out how to have more advanced conversations. But I think when it comes to the blog, probably it would be better if it's like based on like trying to develop specific skills. Just like in the area of Canadian politics or world finance, I want to be able to create and develop and maintain a specific understanding of some of the key elements of those topics so that eventually in my future, when I try to make decisions, I'm making decisions based on a solid set of facts. I'll give you an example. So I was I was following a certain um, American commentator, and he's written quite a few books on the history of Russia and the Soviet Union. And then suddenly, he writes some of the best books, and he gives some of the best speeches when it comes to discussing elements about Russia and authoritarian regimes. And suddenly I heard him talking. He made a speech a couple of weeks ago where he was talking about how Russia has suffered far more um, casualties than the Ukrainian side. And most of the people that I listen to on YouTube who talk about this conflict, they have the other opinion. They think that the casualties are maybe 5 to 1, 6 to 1, where the Ukrainians are actually mortality rate is much, much, much higher. And so I was talking to somebody about this subject and saying how I thought that this American writer had a lot of credibility until I heard him say this, and suddenly my feeling about his credibility changed. And then the person that I was talking to, they basically said, "Hey, listen, actually, there's a lot of data, depending on who you ask, that shows that in fact it's the Russian side who's experienced more casualties." And then the person then gave me some history about the Soviet Union, and they said, "Well, look at these historical numbers, because if we look at deaths from the Second World War, we can see that there was like 30 to 40 million people died from the Soviet side." And so we have this historical number, and like what's changed between the way that the Russian government feels about their people and the way that they throw them into battle and like throw them at the meat grinder, and the tactics that they're currently using. Now, I didn't have the ability to defend either side at that point, and I didn't have any access to the data on either side. And so I realized that it's very difficult to make value statements and also to be able to have clear data. And then I started like I was reading one book that talked about like why is it that at the beginning when the Soviet Union broke, like why did um, Donbass and Crimea, why was it given to Ukraine? And then so there's things that are written in the history books, and then I'm talking to this guy from Russia, and he's like, no, this is what I heard when when I was at this event, and so then he told me a completely different story. So what was he talking about? Oh, anyways, so I don't know. So I feel like I want to have access to a bunch of information. I want to have access to thinking skills. I want to have open mindedness to like what is the truth, what could be the truth, why things matter. But most importantly, I want to be able to have some sandbox, some place where I can think about things and be able to share what I'm thinking. And then when people connect with the things that I'm thinking, I want them to have really good educational experiences. So because a lot of people they start talking about like, well, AI is gonna, it's gonna take over the teaching process, or AI is gonna be able to do this, or it's gonna be able to do that. And okay, maybe, but the thing is, before it is able to do that, we have to calibrate it. Like for any topic that we're using AI to teach, we have to create experiences. So because, well, I mean, there's this other argument where people are like, well, AI is going to take over this, that, and the other. It's going to be able to do stuff that humans are now doing. But that's the thing is that robotics and automation and software, it's always been doing that. It's always been automating certain tasks that people have been doing. And then it's the people who are able to access the power of the software or the power of the machines. Those are the people who continue to move past and move up and become stronger. So at the end of the day, there's this battle between different countries, and within countries, there's battles between different companies. And the question is like, how are these countries and these companies enhancing, augmenting their abilities through the use of tools? And this all goes down to the individual. So each of us is a scientist, each of us is a worker, a laborer, and we have to be able to figure out how to augment our own skills with tools in order to get better outcome. So that's what I'm talking about is like how do I create some kind of platform where I can create blogs, and the blogs are educational experiences that I'm sharing but also that I'm undergoing myself. And then the question is this. So do I have to create my own platform to be able to create those interactive experiences, or can I use somebody else's platform? And then that goes back down to the idea of WordPress. So if WordPress is already owned by Microsoft and it's already one of the best infrastructure and most used systems for creating blogs, and then therefore, and it has a system for changing your blog into a website. So now we're not just talking about blogs, but we're also talking about websites. And so it already has all of the infrastructure that I need in order to set up a blog. It already has all the infrastructure I need to set up a website. Well, that's the question. So if I'm using Cursor or Windsurf or some kind of AI tool in order to create the HTML code, and then the HTML code can be put into WordPress, and then WordPress can put that thing into the blog container, then people would be able to access that blog container. Now, within that blog container, is it possible that a person would be able to enter their API keys from one of their AI subscriptions? All right, so this is the difference between WordPress and being having a need to produce my own platform, and it comes from the very first action that a person would be engaging in when they enter into the website, which is that a person wants to be able to use AI. So they have a choice. Either they can use the keys from the systems which they already have subscriptions from, or they can buy credits on this system itself. And with WordPress, it's impossible for a person to be able to buy credits. So that means that if I produce a HTML page and then put it inside of the container inside of a WordPress blog, then is it possible that within that blog it would be interactive and that a person would be able to input their API keys for some AI service, and then using within that blog, they would be able to interact with the information on that page. And I want to know, this is an incredibly important line of thinking, and you're asking exactly the right questions to sharpen the unique value proposition of the platform. You're essentially probing how much new platform infrastructure do we truly need to build and achieve my goal, especially if AI can generate interactive HTML that could potentially be used in existing systems like WordPress. And your follow-up thought about how users starting with you would interact with the AI services via API keys or platform credits is critical differentiator. Let's break it down. And you do the core question. Okay, WordPress plus AI generated HTML plus new versus a new platform. You're right. The challenge, the assumption that a completely new platform is necessary if the goal is simply to host interactive content. If an AI tool can input HTML for an interactive educational experience, the WordPress, which is indeed a very robust and widely used blogging CMS platform owned by Automatic, can render that HTML. Then where does the platform fit in? This forces us to define what the platform will do, and this is simpler. That cannot or do this forces us to define what platform this platform will do that this simpler combination cannot do or cannot easily do securely or effectively for your specific goals. Yeah. So it's just comparing, right? If we're doing a comparison between, like, if I'm using WordPress and then I just put AI generate HTML and then it has the ability to plug in keys, why do I need a whole new platform? This forces us to define what the platform will do, which is a simpler combination, which a simpler combination cannot do. Emerging differentiator, native AI interaction, and credential management. Your idea about user potentially inputting their own API keys for API services they subscribe to or buying credits directly on your site to power these interactive elements is a massive distinction. WordPress, while incredibly versatile with plugins, it's not inherently designed to securely manage individuals' user API keys for various third-party AI services to be used by custom embedded HTML content, nor does it have a native microtransaction credit system for this kind of granular AI usage within posts. Building such a system securely and robustly on top of WordPress would be a significant undertaking in itself and might stretch its architecture. This is where a platform offered unique value. It could be designed from the ground to securely handle API keys input and manage its own credit system. Provide a seamless way for you intrinsically linked to these AI services and credit modules. Offer the level of integration and user experience that these AI-powered implications of your learning goals. For your channel on world finance, Canadian politics, language learning, this model means the interactive education experiences you create could actually call upon the powerful LLMs in real time, powered either by your API keys or by the readers if we're to designate a way that can buy platform credits. This makes the experience truly dynamic and AI native, not just pre-rendered interactive HTML. The sandbox for thinking you described for critical evaluating information, like the commentator example, could involve an interactive AI code block that lets you, for instance, quickly query different AI models with specific viewpoints and data requests, or even link to live data sources. How this refines this is no longer just about, can AI help me write blog posts? It's about, can I build a platform that lets me and others create deeply integrated AI-powered interactive units where the AI is live and responsive, potentially using user-specific credentials or a platform managed system. Our MVP vision must now more clearly articulate this deeper level of AI integration and the chosen interaction model. Uh, Feasibility. The research into sandboxing is still key, but now we must also investigate secure methods for storing using user provided API keys, the architecture for the platform based credit system, how front end interactive blocks would securely communicate with back end services that call on LLMs using these credentials. Vibe coding now needs to be powerful enough to help you easily create these sophisticated interactive AI code blocks that are wired up for AI service calls. This is much more than generating static themed content. The tech stack will need to be robust enough to handle them secure transactions and API calls. We're still insight today extremely valuable addition to the brainstorm immediate action. I will explicitly add these points to the WordPress AI to our brainstorm documentation. Next step, we need to explore each of the three areas of interests. Okay. All right, so there's two things that we need to talk about before we move on with the questions that you have. And they are basically like, how fast can I get started? Meaning, like, so for example, today I'm doing a challenge right now where I am learning a little bit of French each day. And also, I'm constantly preparing for my discussions with the people that I coach in my coaching business. And so it would be interesting for me to have a platform where I could put some information. For example, I have an immediate need because I'm reading Agenda 47. It's the Donald Trump series of, I think there's one blog article that says there's basically 31 videos that Donald Trump put out to describe his Agenda 47. And I see that when politicians are campaigning to become the elected leader, they generally have a series of policy papers. And now in modern day, we don't necessarily write policy papers, but we give election or we give speeches so that people can listen to the policies that we would like to push forward. Usually, those policies are also connected with polling data. So you have a combination between somebody's personal vision about what they think the country should look like. And then there is the polling data, which shows that maybe some of those opinions are actually striking a chord with people and people are willing to support those ideas. Whereas maybe some smaller ideas that the politician has, they could be removed or slightly adjusted so that they can change their message to be able to bring in a larger group of people. At the end of the day, your society is going to have beliefs and they're going to be attracted to certain leaders because of the strength of their arguments within a certain sector of policies. So right now I'm reading the first document and I have been able to create, there's basically 8 different policies that Donald Trump is discussing, and within each of those policies there's 4 or 5, 6 or 7 objectives that he is discussing within the realm of those broader subjects. I could go into examples, but it's not important right now. The idea is that, like, to what extent can I create some kind of um, user experience that I could send to my student? So I could send that student a link, and then the student would open the link, and then there's some things to read, and there's some questions to answer, and there's some kind of interactive experience that they could go through in order for them to understand the content of whatever topic I'm discussing. The same thing could be done, for example, with French. So, for example, tonight I'm going to be learning French. There's a couple of exercises that I need to do. And then the question is, to what extent could I create a blog article which is connected to all the infrastructure which I previously discussed, so that I could open up the blog article and then I could begin to interact with the content in order to work with the exercises and be able to learn in an interesting way, an interactive way, something that actually motivates me to do the work and then helps me to develop the skills and then be able to produce the output which is required by the exercises. So the question is, okay, so am I going to use my own LLM? So, for example, right now here in Google Gemini, I have some infrastructure where I can work with an AI, and the AI could help me to learn those principles or help me to experience those that educational experience in order for me to develop the skills so I could produce the output for the exercise. Okay, so then, but then is there other things? Is there other tools or is there other software that can be added into the Google Gemini interface so that I could have a more interesting experience? And what does that experience look like? So these are two different examples of how I could create like a mini lesson, and then the mini lesson could be put within some kind of blog article window, and then I could send a link to that window, and then I could open it on another computer, or I could send it to a student, and then they would be able to go through that experience. So if the student doesn't have a Google Gemini account, then if they don't have API keys, then they wouldn't necessarily be able to interact with my content with the aid of AI. So an AI first blog platform means that when people are producing content, they are using AI in order to produce content. Or maybe not. Maybe they're not using AI, but at the end of the day, to some extent, they some of the users are going to need access to AI. And then the question is, how does that AI help them to produce the blog content? And then the second part is the user interface. When the user is coming in and they're reading the blog and they want to interact with the blog, then they also need access to AI. So we can think of AI as some kind of enabling force, and it enables the creator from the creator side, and then it enables the user from the user side. And then the question is, how does the AI enable the creator to create, and how does the AI enable the users to use? And then the question is, like, to what extent do platforms already exist that can do this? So if there aren't any platforms that do this already, then is it that is it that we need to create this type of infrastructure right now, or is there something that's very close to what this is, what I'm asking for, and we could augment that what's currently available right now? Or is it that we have to create something brand new? And then this goes back to the original question, and the purpose for this little chat we're having right now is, how fast would it take to be able to launch something and start testing it? All right. So first, I want you to list the people, the members of your team. I think we had 3 or 4 different personas, and then I want you to pose those questions to each of the team members. I want them to provide feedback, and after they've provided feedback, then I want you to use the brainstorming module. There are specific questions within the brainstorming module. I want you to use the feedback that you get from each of the personas to feed data into the brainstorming module. After you've gone through the brainstorming module, then I'd like you to go through the thinking process in the choose module, and after you've gone through the brainstorming of the choose module, I'd like you to give 3 or 4 different pieces of advice for how we should move forward. Dang it, I gotta go. I got a meeting. All right, I don't have time for this right now. Wow, that's really long. I gotta go.